In a moment, I'm going to ask the level 2s to watch a different video on compound measures. One of the most common compound measures that we use is speed. Speed talks about distance and time. And the thing is, when we're working with time doesn't work in a base of 10. There are not 10 minutes in an hour, there are 60. So when you do time calculations in a calculator, your calculator works in base 10. Time does not. So when you work with time in a calculator, you have to be able to convert it into hours and minutes when you get your answer. So I'm going to work through these decimal hours. Decimal means it works in base 10. Now 1 hour we know is 60 minutes. I'll just write that in at the top so that we know what we're working with. 0.5 hours. 0.5 means a half. And we know that half an hour, we'll use that in common language, and we know that half an hour is 30 minutes. So that makes sense. But then when we get 0.1 hour, it is so tempting to say that that's 10 minutes because we see the 1 and we think 10 minutes. In the same way we might see 0.1 pounds and think 10 pence. But there isn't 100 minutes in an hour, there's 60. So we have to think about how to convert it. And for this, what I might do to kind of make a bit of sense is think about what we did to get from 0.5 to 30. What have I actually done here? Well, I've used this as a ratio again. I've said 1 hour is 60 minutes. And I've said to get from 1 to 0.5, what I've had to do there is times by 0.5. If I do 60 times 0.5, I get 30. So that's the method we're going to use to convert all these other times as well. To get 0.1 into minutes, I'm going to multiply by 60. Because I'm saying it's 0.1 of an hour. An of in maths always means times, and an hour is really 60. So 0.1 times 60, we should be able to do this without a calculator because it's just multiples of 10 that we're working with. 0.1 times 60 is 6 minutes. Now this is a really useful one to have. If 0.1 of an hour equals 6 minutes and we have 0.8 of an hour, maybe all we have to do is multiply this by 8. So some people just remember that 0.1 means 6 and they'll use that ratio to figure out everything else. You don't have to. You could be doing 0.8 times 60 instead. Either way, you're going to get 48 minutes. .5 hours. If I wanted this in minutes, I would have to do 3.5 times 60. It's likely, though, that a question is going to ask you to maybe add this time onto an actual time. Say, what's 3.5 hours on from 3:45 in the afternoon? In which case, having it separated with hours and minutes is more useful. So I'm going to say straight away that I know it's 3 hours and then 0.5 of an hour. So I would just do 0.5 times 60 and get that 30 minutes. That's sometimes a bit more useful to have. 4.9 hours. Now this is usually where if you were to accidentally use it as 4 hours and 90 minutes, it would make absolutely no sense. So please, please, please don't do it. We're looking at 4 hours and 0.9 of an hour. I'm going to have to do 0.9 times 60 to figure out how many minutes that is. This is 54 minutes. So 4 hours, 54 minutes. Now, in all of these, I was going from hours to minutes. I was going from a big unit to a small unit. So I was multiplying by 60. If we're doing it the other way around, we're going to have to divide by 60. We're going to do the opposite. So in these 3 questions, I've got minutes and I want to convert it to hours. Now 15 minutes, you should know already, because we talk about 15 minutes being a quarter of an hour. So to write that as a decimal time, I would have to write that as 0.25 hours, because 0.25 is a quarter. But what did I actually do there? What I did there was I did 15 divided by 60. 15 divided by 60 gets you 0.25. If I do 12 divided by 60, that will tell me the decimal number of hours. If you're doing this without a calculator, what I might do to do this division is write it as a fraction and then simplify the fraction. To simplify this, I would do divide by 6 top and bottom. If I divide the top by 6, I get 2, and divide the bottom by 6, I get 10. Now 2/10 are easy to convert to a decimal number of hours as 0.2. The next one's a massive number, which I'm going to have to divide by 60. 768 divided by 60 is going to tell me in my calculator the exact number of hours and minutes. So 768 divided by 60 in my calculator gives me 12.8 hours as a decimal hour. And so you need to be able to convert both ways, from hours into minutes and minutes into hours, to answer questions on distance, speed and time, which is a compound measure. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more on the next page. Compound measures are anything to do with where the unit you are using is something per something. So we talk about miles per hour. Another unit of speed might be meters per second. We'd maybe talk about sprinters running a certain speed, meters per second. But we can also have other compound measures. We can talk about words per minute. That might be someone's typing speed, might be given in words per minute, or speaking speed might be words per minute. You might be reading a book and you can read so many pages per hour. These are all compound measures. We can kind of make it anything. A factory might produce so many cars per day. Absolutely anything like this can be made into a compound measure. But a compound measure includes everything where you can make this as a unit. This also tells you the actual way of calculating it, because per means divide. And what you might see in meters per second, it might be written with a slash between it. It might be written as m/s, meters per second. Now the way that slash is written is telling you the actual calculation. To figure out the speed in meters per second, you're going to have to do the number of meters divided by, that's what that slash means, the number of seconds. So it actually tells you, your unit tells you the calculation that you have to do to find it out. Now I'm going to let Maths Genie tell you more about compound measures and the 3 that get used a lot in exam papers. So he's going to talk to you about that in the video that I've put on, the linked video that I've put on. So watch that and answer the question sheets that I've put on for you as well.